Hi everyone, welcome back to Whiteboard Circuit, and today I'm here with you to talk about a new business term, paper trail. If you haven't watched the other videos in the business term series, go ahead and click the playlist above. Watch that and become the smartest in the room. Today, a very short video. It's about what a paper trail is. Paper trail essentially means evidence. In any business deal, in any financial issue, in literally any decision you make where there are conditions, where there's a trade, where there's a deal, it's always important to leave behind evidence, leave a paper trail behind to make sure that all of your steps are cataloged. In case there's a lawsuit, in case there's an issue, in case you need to look back to see what you did in the past, as long as there's paper trail, there's evidence, everything should be proven correctly. So now why do we leave evidence? Well, let's think about it logically here for a second. If there is a deal we're making where there's a lot of stuff that could go wrong, where maybe the other opposing parties we don't necessarily trust, if we do everything with legal documentation that is signed by both parties, and we make sure every step is legally cataloged, then there's no option to have a lawsuit. There's no reason that one party would be distrusting of the other. As long as everything is done properly and there's evidence and a paper trail in case you need to look back, in case there is a lawsuit and you need to refer to the previous steps, then paper trail will always come in handy. Let's take a real life example. A lot of online shops like Kijiji and Wish and Etsy, you buy and you sell things. So let's say there's person one. They have an object that they don't really want, so they sell it to person two for, let's say they sell it for $10. The next day, person two decides to sell it to person three for, so person two decides to sell it to person three for $50. Person one finds out that this transaction happened, gets mad at person two, and sues person two for making more profit than they made on the same item. Now, technically, since the owner of the item was person one, if there is no evidence that this right here was a legal transaction and the ownership of the item was successfully transferred to this person, the lawsuit might get a little bit complicated. But let's say person two was able to come up with the correct documentation. It could be text messages. It could be any paper trail that they left. It could be signed documents. It could be anything that proves person one sold and willingly agreed to sell the item to person two for $10. And this agreement was fulfilled and the ownership of the object was successfully transferred to person two with both parties in agreement. This was a deal that was made. And once person two owns the object, they can do whatever they want. They could sell it for $500 if they wanted. Once person two gets ownership, person one is no longer part of the deal at all. They're out. So if person two is able to prove that the ownership of the object was successfully transferred and person one agreed on this deal initially, and all of this was done legally, there is no reason for person one to be upset. They have no right. The object's not theirs. They made a deal. They willingly sold their object to person two. What person two does with it has nothing to do with person one. But if there was no paper trail, if there was no evidence that this was a legal, legitimate deal, then there could be problems in this situation. Now, of course, this was a pretty small example, but in bigger corporations where there's a lot of heavy legal deals like mergers and in many financial investment banking and in many different aspects of companies and business and politics and workplace politics, it is very important that every single step should be cataloged, evidence should be kept, and there should be a paper trail of every single financial transaction made. That way, in case if there's an issue or you need to look back on any step that was taken, you have that paper trail, you have that evidence. So that's what paper trail means. I hope you enjoyed this video. Press that thumbs up button and that subscribe button. And if there's a word that you've heard in your school or around the workplace that you don't necessarily understand, put it down in the comments below and I'll be sure to make a video on it. I hope you enjoyed. Bye!